New York, Neil Jordheim, and we're going to have Linda Gregory. First is Holly, and Holly and I have talked about this, and she is going to be showing us something from Adirondack Park. Correct, Holly? Why don't you tell us
That's
about
right.
it?
Sure.
Okay.
I live up near the Adirondack Park, about 6 miles south of it, or excuse me, north of the northern border of the park. And it's one of my favorite places to go hiking in the summer and canoeing also. And so that's what my video is about. It's very self-explanatory. And before you get that screen share started, if everybody wants to click mute on the lower left of their screen and stop video, we'll get a better feed. And also up at the top where it says view, if you click that top right corner, speaker, and then if you have different bars, just one bar, and you'll be able to get a better feed of the video.
Right.
So this is a spot in the wilderness area of the park called Boreas Ponds that has recently been open to the public. So go ahead, Paul, and share the screen.
There we go.
Yeah.
Keep that in speaker.
It's going to get bigger in a second.
That's fine. And then you can take, you've already done that in your presentation.
Okay.
Also, questions and comments. If you want to just fill in your chat to me at the end, I'll take questions and comments.
Okay, so I'm going to start it, and the people need to turn off their mics, okay? Turn off your mics. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Why preserve wilderness?
You
I found
can
out
control
in October 2019
your
when I
audio
made
on
Travelogue
your
with my friend
probably on
Carolyn,
your
a
keyboard.
78-year-old veteran of 2 knee replacements and an inspiration to keep on pedaling, even when it's upstream. Adirondack adventure of pedaling Boreas Ponds began in the Adirondack Park in the eastern U.S. It's in northeastern New York State, just hours away from New York City, Boston, Massachusetts, Burlington, Vermont, Ottawa, Ontario, and Montreal, Quebec. The park consists of 6.1 million acres. 2.6 million acres are state-owned and 3.4 million privately owned. There are 102 towns and villages within the park, with 132,000 year-round residents and 200,000 seasonal residents. Our adventure took us to near the center of the park, to the village of Long Lake. The Adirondack Hotel is on the southeast shore, surrounded by the high peaks and Seward Range. Built in the 1850s, burned in 1898, and rebuilt in 1899, it still has its original high ceilings, fireplace, and Victorian decorated rooms. We drove on to Newcomb, New York to spend the night at the Hoot Owl Bed and Breakfast and rent canoe carts from the Cloud Splitter, an outfitter named for Mount Marcy. From its grounds, you can see the mountain as well as the beginning of the Hudson River, just downstream from Lake Tier of the Clouds near the top of Marcy. Boreas Ponds area was purchased by New York State from the Adirondack chapter of the Nature Conservancy as part of a 65,000-acre protection deal from Finch, Byrne and Company lands. Over 11,000 acres of the lands were classified as wilderness in 2018. 2019, the Gulf Brook Road Inn was improved to fully open public access. We parked at the Four Corners parking area, a former intersection of 4 logging roads. Lots of contour here, with access to several peaks, each around 4,000 feet. Boreas Mountain, Mount Marcy, Haystack. Now the Boreas Ponds area is part of the High Peaks Wilderness, at the 3rd largest wilderness area east of the Mississippi, after the Everglades and the Okefenokee Swamp. Was a 0.9-mile walk from the parking area. We used canoe carts to carry our gear, starting out at 7 a.m. Surprisingly, we passed 3 young men taking out at La Bière Flow. They must have camped overnight to take advantage of the previous sunset. Our put-in was at the dam. The dam affords beautiful mountain views to the north and the continuation of the Boreas River as it outflowed to the south. The changing light, the mist on the water, reflections, autumn foliage, stump gardens, trunk gardens, all afforded us with the dreamlike paddle that Peter Bauer, in the Adirondack Almanac, described best as a photo belt. Immersed in the beauty of the wilderness, we enjoyed high peak vistas unique in the forest preserve. We paddled by ancient skeletal trees, down since logging days, sun-bleached stumps, pond lilies, and mergansers. We discovered why one should preserve the Boreas Ponds wilderness in the Adirondack Park. Why bother driving 2 hours from home, then another hour and a half each way to check out the Boreas Road in the daylight? Then get up at 4:30 in the morning to drive again, hike a mile, hauling gear in a canoe. We found that out, Carolyn and I. Originally, this area was seasonally inhabited as a hunting ground for 2 Indian nations. The Iroquois insulted the more northern Algonquins by calling them Adirondackers, which means bark eaters. The park itself was created in 1892 by New York State amid concerns for water and timber resources. There was a lot of clear cutting and resultant erosion going on, and this area serves as the watershed for the Hudson River and New York City. It is still typified by cold winter temperatures, low population density, and high unemployment. Today, tourism is a major source of income due to its natural beauty with 3,000 lakes and ponds, 30,000 miles of rivers and streams, 2,000 miles of hiking trails, and the 46 highest mountains in the state, each over 4,000 feet. The Adirondack Range is ancient and of relatively low altitude. The Adirondack Park is a New York State park, not a national park. It has no entry fee and no gates that close at the end of the night. It is larger than several national parks combined, well over twice the size of Yellowstone and almost 9 times the size of Yosemite. The entire area is regulated by the Adirondack Park Agency. The land is protected under Article 14 of the New York State Constitution, quote, to preserve the exceptional scenic, recreation, and ecological value, unquote. That this park includes populated areas makes it a model of experimental conservation. In 1963, the Adirondack Park was designated as a National Historic Landmark. At the north end of the paddle, we saw the source of the ponds, the Boreas River. We passed a beaver lodge and a live young cedar in the arms of a dried skeletal old maple. Paddling south back to the put-in, Our changed perspective and higher sunlight created ever-changing views of the high peaks. We had only seen 6 other paddlers during our 3.5-hour paddle to the dam. We hauled out our canoes, enjoyed a quick pack lunch at the dam, and walked our canoe carts and gear past an old hunting cabin to sign out and enjoy a drive home through the autumn-graced mountains.
That looks like that's about it, huh?
That's about it, Pa.
Hey, Holly, good job. Great,
Thank
great capture of the place. And tell people about the fact that you won a prize.
Oh, yeah, I submitted one of the scenes of the put-in and just got the landscape, winning entry for landscape in an Adirondack Laurentian chapter contest.
Yeah. Well, that's very good. And how far did you live from this place, Holly? Did you say?
Oh, 100 miles.
Oh, 100 miles. Okay, beautiful. Peaceful.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay. All right, the next person, anything else? Oh, wait a second. We might have some questions, huh?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I have 3 chats. It says, I went to camp as a teenager on Lake Placid. What a fabulous area that I didn't appreciate as much as I should have. This is beautiful from Linda. And beautiful, serene, amazing reflections in the water. Thank you. And that is from Judy Holcomb. All right. All right, very good.
Yeah,
So
thank
now-
you.
The Algonquin and the Iroquois,
What is that?
I don't know.
the land.
Carol Wilson. Oh, did we see any wildlife? No, Carol, we did not see any wildlife. Well, we did see birds. We did see some mergansers and some ducks, but we didn't see any mammals that day.
Okay, what is this? What is the music? Anybody know?
Ralph Vaughan Williams, Lark Ascending.
I know, but do we want that on?
Oh, what is on now? I don't know what's playing now. Somebody has their
really.
mic on. Let's see. If I
It's
can
not
tell
me.
the participants. Hmm.
I don't know where it came from.
Quit the safari or go back and close
The
out.
seasons come and go, live a natural pace.
Yeah, somehow got on safari. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, that was a trick. Okay. So the next person is going to be presenting to us. Hold on. Is Neil.
Hello,
And Neil, are you there? Neil Jordheim.
we are here, and it's not just Neil, it's Neil and Nancy, my
Okay.
wife. She's a Camera Club member as well.
All right. And could you explain something about your trip? You went to Machu Picchu, and I wish I could go there, but I probably never will. But tell us about it.
Well, Nancy and I went to Machu Picchu, but we went to Peru and Ecuador. It was about a 14-day trip, and we traveled with another couple. And what I've done is I just cut out a chunk of our larger presentation because generally speaking, we're talking 10 or 12 minutes for what we're doing here. Machu Picchu, in my opinion, was probably one of the most interesting places I've ever been in my life, just because I'm not a historian. And to go there, we had a wonderful guide who told us the history as much as is available, because there's no written record of it. And he told us about many of the details that of how Machu Picchu was likely constructed and what it was used for. And had we gone there with a 23-year-old guide rather than a 65-year-old guide, I don't think we would have had the lesson that we learned from going there.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything to that?
No, no.
So we'll show our video, and if anybody has questions at the end, we'll certainly take those.
It must be an amazing place to have gone.
It is an incredible place to go. And anybody that has the opportunity, we would highly recommend it.
Okay, so here we go. And your trip to Machu Picchu.
they drill, they cut, they chip rock in order to make the path trail there. And the mountains above you, over you. It's amazing. That means a new
How wide is it?
same like this.
It's the same width, see that?
Okay, very nice job.
May you all be so lucky as to go.
Yes, beautiful. Beautiful job.
Did you walk up to the gate to the sun?
We did not go up to the gate to the sun. We were there 2 days. One day we came at noon and stayed the afternoon, then went back into town, stayed overnight. Then we went up at pre-dawn. And that's why you see the cloud cover, because you go through multiple ecosystem or ecological systems on your way.
Yeah, my husband and I went on that trip too, and it's wonderful.
It is.
It was very, very different going in the evening or late afternoon when hardly anyone was there, and going the next morning when there were hundreds of people there.
Right.
They are talking about starting to limit how many people can get in there each day or each season. And they did things, for example, we went there with walking sticks, and we were not allowed to use our walking sticks with points on them. But we were allowed, just because of the guide that we were with, to use walking sticks that had rubber tips, because they're so afraid of destroying it, because they want it to be available for people for hundreds of years to come. It's been at least 500 years since they thought anyone lived there. And the whole facility itself, they don't know. They're guessing at everything because there are no written records of it. But they do feel that this was probably a religious site. And it was a place where people would travel for many, many, many miles and do a pilgrimage there, because they had effectively dormitories, and then they had worship areas, and then they had food preparation areas for large groups of people. So all of that is speculation, but it's pretty much verified with all the research that's been done over the years.
Sure. What time of the year were you there?
We were there in the
March, April.
Yeah, March, April
We were-
timeframe.
We were there when it's often rainy. However, we were lucky enough that we only had 1 day of rain.
Right.
And of course, and that stops. And like any kind of place that's warm, it steams up.
We couldn't get over how the llamas just would come all over. It was wonderful.
And they were so tame.
Yes.
What year were you there?
We were there in 2018.
Uh,
I made that hiked into from Ollantaytambo hiking with a group of 6 other couples back in 1981.
Wow.
Oh,
Great trip.
yeah.
Yeah, our children, we have 2 boys, and they went on a trip where they hiked in for 3 or 4 days instead of doing what we did, where we took a train to get in there and get close, and then took a bus pretty close to the top. So
And then
They were younger.
they were young, and they did admit when they came home that they had actually paid Sherpas, people that carried their gear on their backs,
Oh,
and the Sherpas would run ahead, and when it was noontime and it was time to eat, they would come around the corner on the Inca Trail, and here would be this white tent, and they would sit down at tables, and they had tablecloths and white napkins and silverware, and they were served this beautiful meal, and then the Sherpas would, they would leave the Sherpas behind and start walking, and the Sherpas would come running by and go to the next place and prepare their
Wow.
evening meal and set up the tents. So it wasn't exactly roughing it for them either.
Here's a comment from Holly. Fantastic place, beautifully photographed.
Thank you.
And Kirk Hively wanted to know, did you have any issues with the altitude?
We did have issues with the altitude, but the travel company that we went with and the guide that we went with was very insistent that we were to drink the local tea, coca tea, and we had coca candy, we had coca, all kinds of stuff. You could even sprinkle it on top of your food if you wanted to. And
Wow.
we did notice that even the workers that were there were oftentimes had a big chew on the side of their mouth when they were working, and that they chewed this. The local people chew this all the time to deal with altitude sickness. We also took pills.
Yeah, we didn't, let's be honest, we didn't feel it because in this situation, they'd taken us to a place higher and then lower and then higher again. I mean, they worked hard at that.
So what was what's the altitude at Machu Picchu? Do you know?
Machu Picchu, the lowest part, where we got off the buses, I think was only 9,000, 10,000 feet. Where we had been in Peru several days before was another 3,000 feet above that. And basically they took you there so you could experience that. And then when we went to Machu Picchu, the guide said, well, none of you will have trouble with altitude because you've already been much higher than this. And psychologically, he was right.
Right. When we used to live in Uray, Colorado, 8,000 feet, we told our guests, do not drink a beer right away.
Right.
So they head right to the bar, of course.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't,
my brother,
but it does make a difference. Altitude does.
It
Okay,
certainly
so all right. Well, I think Linda, you're on deck, and I will be sure I turn off my video while you're talking. And you're going to be doing the share screen.
I am.
All right, you want to explain what your trip is about?
Can you hear me all right, Paul?
Yeah, just
Okay.
I can turn up just a little, maybe. No, I think it's okay. I think it's all right.
Okay. Well, I think it's really interesting that Neil's trip should precede this one because my travel partner, Patty Ferguson, was born in Peru. And anyway, Patty is a Deer Camera Club friend who accompanied me on this trip. And it kind of explains the whole thing. So I'm just going to share my screen and hit the button, hopefully. Share computer screen, optimize. and share.
There we go.
Okay, you can go now. There we go.
Put your head down for just a second. Thank you.
Because you'll get these young males pushing, shoving, play fighting like this, exercising, and also in 20, 30 years, they will know who was the stronger one, you know? See, these girls, they keep moving away from that male. That's why you see them moving like that, and that male is trading them. These elephants, they can communicate over very long distances,
still thinking about
At
it?
least it's all pretty, but
Oh,
yeah, oh yes. I think it's hard to beat the warthog, though.
I don't know.
It's a yellow cattle tag. That's
Oh, it's
from
a
the
tag on it.
Vulture Research.
African culture, we live in extended families. So
So where have they been all day? Have they been out grazing?
Grazing out in the wild.
Okay.
And there are some people that are employed that are taking as well they can go out on their own. You look at the back, there's someone who's holding their feet.
Where's the line started? Scary man.
What we call wow.
That is definitely a wow. Super wow.
It's a wow, right?
hunt is something you have to go. Because sometimes she can work hunted and not getting anything. But she will keep on hunting every day. Because, and also cats, they are opportunistic. Because even when she having something like this, when something comes close by, she can make it. Because she never know when the next kill is gonna be. When they die, they're down and they can pick that blood.
But then if they're not, then you could just.
Yeah, they can.
have been. Those are like sandpipers, I think. Not the sex shop.
They look sandpiper-ish.
They are.
I can't tell you how emotional this was.
Fabulous job, Linda. That reminds me so much of my first trip too. Brought back so many memories.
Thank you.
Great.
Wonderful trip.
Every time I watch this, I get really emotional.
Of course. Right.
We do too.
Yeah. Well, you deserve to. That's okay. That's nice. Very nice job.
They're beautiful people, aren't they?
Yes.
Just
Wonderful,
beautiful.
wonderful people, beautiful people. They are so loving and so giving.
Yes.
And so welcoming. Just amazing. It doesn't matter where, at least where we traveled, where we were so welcomed. And I know it was part of how Overseas Adventure Travel, the group we traveled with.
Who did you travel?
Overseas Adventure Travel.
That's what we did too.
And I know that they told the chiefs and the bomas that we were coming and so on. So they were, you know, they were primed for us, but it was just the most incredible trip. I wish I was still there.
Yeah, it was beautiful. We were sleeping in our tent one night and a lion came and laid right down on we could see his shape. And I woke my husband up and I said, now be quiet because there's a lion right out there. And he said, I was sleeping. But they're wonderful. And the food and the accommodations are so wonderful.
Fabulous, fabulous. I have a second part of this trip that I did on my own. Patty, as I said in the end of this show, that Patty went back to Green Valley because she had been to Tanzania before. And I went on to Tanzania as a solo, and which is a whole nother 40-minute show. But the experiences, the people I met, especially at the very beginning of the next trip, it was just a spectacular trip. It's something that I will never forget, ever forget. And I every time I see this, I want to be back there.
Mm-hmm. I hope you'll give that show on Tanzania.
Okay, Paul.
Yep. Good job, Linda. Great. I gave you sent you a chat. Great the portraits are wonderful. I really like those.
My focus was I had done a lot of research ahead of time on elephants, so I knew almost as much as the trip leaders did about elephants. But the secondary focus was on portraits of the people.
Yeah, and really, those are frameable, and wonderful.
The people were just so welcoming, and it was just an amazing trip. I had dreamed of it, as Paul, I think, put out in my introductory to this. I had wanted to go there since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And finally, when I had the chance, my husband had no interest in going. And when he passed away, I said, so what can I do now that I couldn't do before? And I went, oh, to Africa. And the memories I have there, I'm still in contact with our trip leader. who is struggling because his whole livelihood depends on tourism, you know, and the people coming there. But it was just an incredible trip. And every time I see this, I cry. I had to turn my mic off because I was bawling my eyes out.
Yeah, hey, let me tell you, all of us guys who played Tarzan when we were young, we wish that we could have been there too.
I didn't mean Tarzan while I was over there.
You didn't? Well, he lives here.
The vervet monkeys who were able to steal our lunches early on. You know, I look back at that and go, oh, okay, that was really funny. And might not have been quite so funny at the time, but.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, the question, Linda.
Yeah.
Somebody asked you, what surprised you the most was the question. What surprised you the most?
Wow.
Or is that too hard?
Now, I might have to take a second to think about that.
No.
Just I think the welcoming of the people, and also probably the most importantly was how close we were able to get to the wildlife.
Oh.
As you saw in the very beginning, I was able to capture a shot of an elephant walking up right beside our safari vehicle. And Patty had her camera up, so she wasn't really watching the progression of this animal. And I whispered over to her, I said, don't do it, but you could put your hand out and touch that elephant. That's how close they came. And how, but you know, they were used to having people and vehicles in that area. So it wasn't unusual for them to be able to allow us to get really close. But if anybody made a false move, it was all over. So.
Well, that's good. So does anybody else have a question or comment? We're past 8:30, so if anybody has anything to say.
Thank you, Paul. You did a great job for us, and
great job, Paul.
It was really nice to see everybody. See that trip, Linda. Fabulous.
Thank you.
A lot.
Thank you. Yeah. I'd be very, very happy to show the second part, which is a little shorter. And that's the Tanzania part of the trip that I took after Patty left.
Well, we'll work it in the next month or two around, because so other people.
Great. That would be great.
So,
happy to do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
So glad to show it.
I think we're done.
Glad you will. Thanks a lot.
Yep. It was